The thing we have probably the most trouble with is number 2 at the bottom of the page. And it seems like we go for a while, don't have any questions on this, and then just kind of blows off or blows up on us. And I can tell you, and Diane, she could chime in on this as well here, but in the last probably 3 months, 2 months, we have taken probably more questions than we ever have or can remember taking on this topic. And here's the deal. We're going to talk about it to begin with here in the realm of HPMLs, but it affects the ability to pay requirements and qualify, or the QM requirements. Remember, there's a rate spread threshold for the new QM, the new general QM. High cost mortgage loans, we just talked about those. There's a rate spread threshold. Some of you listening are lucky enough to be a Home Mortgage Disclosure Act bank, right? And you're going, lucky, not lucky about it. Well, you are a HMDA bank if you qualify. If you do qualify as a HMDA bank, you have to report a rate spread threshold. So there's 4 different regulatory requirements minimum that deal with rate spreads that all fall back on the same definition. In determining the rate spread threshold, in determining the rate spread, we take the APR from the closing disclosure. That's the easy part. Okay, that's a document that we get that's absolute, right? Here's the closing disclosure. Here's the APR. We're taking that final APR. We're going to compare that to a comparable transactions average prime offer rate. And that's a government product, if you will. We're taking a government set product, taking the average prime offer rate from it and comparing it to our APR. The issue though is, what date are we taking that average prime offer rate from? Because those average prime offer rates get updated periodically. So the regulation says the date you set the interest rate with the customer. Well, could that be at the time of application? Yeah. Could it be when you meet in between the application and providing a loan estimate? Possibly. Could it be the loan estimate? Possibly. Could it be sometime after the loan estimate? Possibly. Could it be when you execute a written rate lock agreement? Yes. Could it be the closing disclosure? Yes. All of those could be the right answer. And one of the things that we run into is financial institutions like to make things black and white, right? Because it a lot of times mitigates risk. Here's one you have to be careful with. If your financial institution says, well, it's always going to be the loan estimate, I can tell you what the auditor and the examiner are doing or should be doing. They should be going, okay, that's what your procedure is. Let's go verify it. Let's vet it out. Let's go interview loan officers. Let's look at loan file documentation and see if the rate is actually set the final time with the customer when you provide the loan estimate. And I can tell you what we've identified in a lot of financial institutions is we'll go do the interviews to say, oh no, sometimes when the customer walks in and I tell them it's going to be that rate, that's the rate it's going to be, especially on an in-house loan. And we'll find others say, oh no, it's always the loan estimate. And then we'll find somebody says, if we do a written rate lock agreements, whenever we execute that, that's the best answer for when those things occur. And you might have another one that says, well, sometimes that rate can change up to closing. That's why we have this in-house rate is that, I quote it, but it could change right up to closing. So, in some instances it might be the closing disclosure. So here's what it comes down. You have to do what you say and say what you do. Hey, don't just say something to make it black and white. It better back up what you're actually doing in the organization. And you might say, well, what's the risk? Well, you may have incorrectly identified or not identified a high cost or a high price mortgage loan. Okay. From a HMDA bank's perspective, your rate spread might be inaccurate. Well, if your data is not accurate for HMDA, that can cause a whole laundry list of problems. You might have qualified something as a QM and it's not. And so maybe it's something you sold the secondary market. And if they find out, or if it goes bad and you get it back in your lap. And so there are a lot of different consequences that could be present in the event that you don't do this correctly. Say you didn't identify something correctly as a high cost mortgage loan. Gosh, you didn't do the pre-disclosure rescission, which affects the post consummation rescission period. These are high costs, so the likelihood of them going bad is higher than other loans that we make. And so some real problems could occur if you don't get this right. So what's the date you set the rate with the customer for that transaction, the final time before closing? That's what we're looking to identify. And here's the thing, if you get our monthly magazine, and we have written an article about this and tried to outline these requirements. And Diane, Mindy, I know you're both listening. Is there a way we can get that in everybody's hands? Maybe we just get everybody listening here today a complimentary version of our magazine that has that article in it, so that they can all benefit from this discussion, an expanded version of it here today. Well, I tell you what, we will find a way to get that done. I'm just asking them to help me out and make sure I don't forget that.